All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello all, it's a Friday. I love it. Your recorded applause means so much to my shallow, superficial heart. It really does. And thank you. What a terrific week it has been. All kinds of events that we've covered here. Stan Pollock, wait a minute. God, I love starting a show with somebody who appreciates the power of a simple donation, and that is Stan Pollock. Stan Pollock, CPA, is my favorite CPA on earth.
Big shout out.
I give him a big shout out. And Stan, thanks for sticking with us. Mark says, Stan, you're damn straight, Stan. I will never leave you, baby. And I'm not going to cry, but I want you to know.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I'm carrying you right here, kid. Right here. Stan Pollock, CPA. Yeah.
Thank you.
It feels like that should be a TV show or something. Stan Pollock, CPA.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Financial crime fighter.
Yeah, financial crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're looking for someone who can add up the figures quickly, Stan Pollock, CPA. Oh, and look at this. Maud Day. What up, Maud? Big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
What a great way to start the day. Thank you. $25.
She's
right
so
on,
pretty.
Stan, she says. Hugs and kisses from Maud Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my God, you guys are going to...
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I'm overcome. I am overcome. I'm excited about... And we have quite the show for you today. Courtney needs to take Mark to a tanning booth. It's true. I am pasty white. One of the reasons I'm pasty white is because of a monitor here in front of me. I'm going to show you something. You know, we like to kind of live out loud a little bit on this show. So there's a monitor. It's huge. I would never have this big a monitor. This is what Tony has set up when we were first setting the studio up. He had 2 of these monitors. I gave him one of them. So this monitor is so insanely powerful here, and it's so big and bright that it makes me even whiter than I am. So look what happens when I take it off the screen. You see how my face then becomes, closer to what a normal person's would be? Did anybody see that? No?
No.
There's a slight difference. Yeah, like you can see it now. Like you're.
That's what I'm talking about. So there it is, and there it goes away.
Oh,
see
yeah.
what I mean?
I see the difference. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes a guy who's already cadaverous looking, it makes him even whiter. So, anyway, don't look at the stock market today, says Gail Guthrie. What's happening with the stock market? Albert, you're our stock.
Google it.
Well, Albert, maybe you can Google it. I've already had some sad news today. I'll tell you in a moment. What's happening in the stock market, Albert? Don't tell me my DJT stock is down, dude.
I hate to break the news, but yeah, I don't think the DJT is doing too well right now.
Oh, no. This is hard.
No.
Oh, my God. DJT.
I think they're below $30.
No.
Unless this is a buying opportunity. You buy it on the dip, Albert. You buy it on the dip. Susan Roberts, what about you, Susan Roberts? You're maybe the coolest with a super sticker for $10.
Big
Thank
shout
you.
out.
You know, we're a crowd-funded show, so we do make a big deal when people fund us from the crowd. It matters. So thank you very much, those of you who do. It really does affect our bottom line, and honestly, it propels us forward. I mean, without you guys, it would be very, very hard to continue. You can turn down your volume. It's leaking. Oh, Kim.
Yeah, Kim. Yeah.
There's a whole
Your kind of
private chat going on that way. Kim, can you turn down your volume? It's leaking through your mic. It says, oh, it's good. Mark, why would I send it in a private chat if you're just going to read it loud on the air? I don't mind telling the audience. Croquet Film. What up, Croquet Film?
Big shout
out. Love it. Thanks for the 5 spot and the super sticker. Wow, it's a great day. Lee bought that DJT today. Is that what you're telling me, Lee? You bought the DJT? You're counting on a bounce on Monday when homeboy goes into the court? You know, once he starts getting some FaceTime, angry guy on the courthouse steps, it's a witch hunt. It's the Biden Justice Department. It's a railroad. Once you start getting a little bit of that Trump toxicity going, you know, when he works the media a little bit, Lee Kopp is counting on it, giving the DJT stock a bounce. Wow. Oh, you bought today, but not the Trump stocks. I see.
We kind of needed that information when you said bought today.
Thank you for clarifying. Wow. Tracy Pyers. What up, Tracy Pyers?
Big shout out.
I'll just do this all day. This is great. A $5 super sticker from Tracy. Thank you.
Everyone's in a good mood today, Mark.
Yeah.
It's Friday.
Tracy's one of those names. You know, I'm into kind of names and stuff. I like. See how she spells it? Tracie. I assume it's a woman.
Yeah.
You've also got the Tracy spelling, right? Tracy.
Yeah.
You also like the town of Tracy, where we're right near the Bay Area, and you also have Traci, which is why if you're somebody with a Traci, they're probably a younger person, right? I mean, isn't that?
Not
am I wrong?
necessarily.
Kim?
No.
Not necessarily, Mark.
No.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected then.
I stand corrected.
All right. Yeah. Who knew? Anyway, Tracy, thank you very much. And
You know what
I
I
didn't mean to
wanted-
obsess on your name, but
I wanted to mention also that Karen K kicked in $40 through the PayPal because it's her 40th anniversary this weekend.
wow, that's super cool. I love it.
And she did it to all the shows, so super, super nice of her.
Karen K, happy 40th
Thank you so
anniversary
much.
weekend. That is really cool. 40 years together.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
But 40 years is a long time. Wow. Well, this is awkward, I have to say, but as long as we're talking about romances that have lasted a long time, I'll do this quickly and then I'll tell you what's coming up on the show. But
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm like you. I'll never forget where I was when I heard this news. The Golden Bachelor, Jerry Turner and Teresa Nist, married on the show, divorced now after only 3 months.
What?
Yes.
We knew they were living apart. They said, we're just trying to get our lives together to make it so we can live together.
And let me say that living apart is a great way to live. I think that should keep it together. I think living apart could be the key to a happy marriage.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It does work in a lot of different marriages, but in this case, sadly, Jerry Turner and his wife, Teresa Nist, met on a reality show, The Golden Bachelor. They found love. They planned a future. And now it's all gone. Quote, Teresa and I have had a number of heart-to-heart conversations, and we've looked closely at our situation, our living situation, and so forth. And we've kind of come to the conclusion, mutually, that it's probably time for us to dissolve our marriage. They tied the knot, as they say, on television after meeting on the first season of The Golden Bachelor. Fresh
They did kind
love.
of rush into it. Yeah.
Yeah. She is 70. He is 72. If these crazy kids can't make it work, I don't know if there's a chance for any of us.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
I'm glad Kim opened the show by essentially renewing my faith in the institution of romance and maybe marriage, with Karen Kay having her 40th anniversary weekend. She is a viewer, listener to the show. But on the other side, I mean, it's my duty to report that Turner and Nist, pictured here in happier times, are not together any longer. One of the big sticking points, people always want to know, Kim, why didn't these kids stay together? And apparently one of the sticking points was where to live. Yeah. You know, they both had lives set up in different places.
They were living in different states. That's way long distance.
They couldn't live in that house that they put Turner in during the show. I mean, they don't give you the show. That would be good at the end of the show. They go, yeah, and you guys can live here.
No.
So the deal is that he lives, I think, in Indiana. She lives in South Carolina. Something like that. She is a financial services professional from New Jersey, okay. And he is a retired restaurateur from Indiana. They planned to live in South Carolina. That's where I got the South Carolina thing. Quote, we looked at homes in South Carolina. We considered New Jersey, and we just looked at homes after home, but we never got to the point where we made that decision. That's kind of nice. Should we live here? Should we live there? Or you know what? Let's just get divorced. I mean, it's a really odd leap from choosing between houses and places to live to, let's face it, this is all BS anyway. We just are on a reality show.
Totally all BS. I mean, it's all for TV. They were never ending up together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never got to the point where we made that decision. Turner and Nisp captured hearts, they say here, during the first season of The Golden Bachelor. Seniors finally given the chance to find love. There's no doubt in my mind, he says, I'm still in love with her. I root for her every day. And she says, yeah, I still love him. Mm-hmm. Well, and she added...
Good day, sir.
Right.
You get nothing.
Yeah, at the end of it, the two are headed to their next reality show. Or hosting a game show or whatever you do after you get off that sort of thing.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. Now let me tell you what's on the show today. We've got Florida bottom of the hour. We're going to have a drop-in for Florida from the person who fills in when Kim's away. And I really love Teresa Strasser. She's going to jump in to our Florida mix. We oftentimes, and I think increasingly, will have guests into Friday Fabulous Florida to kind of just hang out with us and ruminate and marinade in the magic that is Florida. So she'll join us. And by the way, she's an author. She has a really cool book, and we'll spend a minute on that. Albert, you got the information on that? Because we're going to do it probably before we get into Florida.
Yeah, and it's right down my alley, too. You told me the book it's about baseball. So.
It's about baseball, yeah. But it's one of those books you don't need to care about baseball at all to enjoy it. So, yeah, I think, anyway, we'll spend a second on that, but mostly it'll be about Florida. Michael Shure joins us today, and, of course, the culture blaster, Michael Snyder, will be here toward the end of the program to talk about any number of things related to media, streaming, and I want to talk to Michael Shure in politics about the situation with Trump and the GOP, but particularly to Trump, with essentially all issues being crowded out of the picture by what? By the abortion question. Yep. Now you've got the Supreme Court, Trump's Supreme Court, an activist conservative court, having aggressively gone after this issue. They overturned Roe, and now they've turned it back to the states. And now these conservative states, as you're well aware, they are preloaded essentially with legislation that was to go in effect if Roe should go away. So that legislation does go in effect in many states. And most recently, Arizona, with this medieval law, this law from the 1800s, from before Arizona was even a state, before women had to vote. You've heard all of these things. When, you know, it was, the population of Arizona was like 7,000 people. They have this law that they dredged up that was still on the books, and now it's going into effect unless they can modify in some way the legislative agenda to address it. But that's not what happened in Arizona, as you're also likely aware. The Republicans, they ended the session. They wanted no part of taking up any legislation that would in any way soften what had been done. Okay, so anyway, back now to the GOP and Donald Trump. So this becomes a centerpiece now of conversation and of thought processes when it comes to voting. Even Trump had to go out and sort of modify it, try to play it down the middle. I think that, you know, I've got a plan for this that everybody's going to be happy with. He's always got a plan that everybody's going to be happy with. But this is the point. You're not going to hear about the border anymore. You may hear about it, but it's not the issue anymore. The economy, not so much. Ukraine, maybe. Funding for the government, okay. But the real overarching issue, as it should be appropriately placed, will be above all of those things. This question of women's rights in America, women's reproductive rights, it's so basic. We're so past this. We've evolved as a nation well past this. And most people in this country don't buy organized religion. They don't. I think the majority of people are not members of a church. That said, you may live by the precepts of some religion, and you may even keep the traditions of a religion. But my point being, underpinning this decision is this extreme religiosity. And that isn't something that's consistent with what most Americans feel. And certainly it's not consistent with what most Americans feel should be legislated. So this is really going to push everything else out. Forget about a legislative agenda of any other kind.
Well, I think we have to make sure it pushes everything else out, right? Don't let the spotlight fade on it, because that's what's going to get people to the polls. I really believe that. Well,
the reality is that I'll deal with you in a second, Chris, my one of my designated trolls. I guess my point is you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to keep the spotlight on it. The spotlight's on it, and it's going to stay on it. And I've also said, and I said it over and over, this issue should be on ballots, because if you put this issue on the ballots, then people come out. So I've reiterated that many times, but boy, you really see it playing out now, particularly with Trump trying to make it right somehow with announcements, et cetera. Trump's handling of the abortion issue is a no-win for him. The evangelists, or the evangelical part of the party won't like his backing off of it, and nobody else will like it either, because the majority want choice. Yeah, exactly. I think very well said, Karen. It's true. Agolf Twitler says, remember when Republicans claimed Justice Brown was not suitable for the SCOTUS because her opposition to racially motivated police brutality made her a judicial activist? Yeah, right. That looks almost quaint compared to the kind of judicial activism we've seen on the court now. Pepperidge Farms remembers. That was that campaign, Pepperidge Farms remembers. Wasn't that it? Albert, do you remember it? Kim certainly looks like she does not remember.
I do not remember that.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farms spot. No.
I think that was a campaign where they break open the biscuits, and it's kind of one of those. Remember when Mom used to break open the biscuits? Pepperidge Farm. Remember?
Like nostalgia. Yeah.
Yeah, nostalgia, exactly. Where's my troll? Oh, my God. Chris is my troll. All right, Mark, preaching to the choir. All right. Very good, Chris. I read sometime. I'm here like working on stuff before we actually go on. And I was reading today a couple of the back and forth between people who are on before the show goes on, and Chris is one of them. And he is kind of funny in his own twisted, trolly way, So the other thing I saw is some birthdays. Walter always posts birthdays every day. Tom Clancy, David Letterman, Herbie Hancock, and Scott Turow. Wow. It's a pretty good crew.
What?
Yeah. When Scott Turow's book came out, I forget what it was. It was about the murder. He did a murder book that was really hot, like super hot for a while. He also did The Firm, which is really hot too. But I just poured through that book. I couldn't put it down. Herbie Hancock, David Letterman, Tom Clancy. Very cool. Thank you. In any case, all right, that's just a word about politics. We'll get more into it with Michael Shure. So some of those same issues I'll bring up with Michael. Kim had a breaker right as we were going on. I guess the House did pass that legislation. Is that right, Kim?
Yeah, they did.
The FISA legislation?
It's modified, but they did pass something, yeah.
So, in any case, they are getting something done. The other thing I saw as related to San Francisco, I have to tell you that, this show came out of a radio show in San Francisco. So we keep very close ties to the Bay Area. Those are, really our people who helped launch the show. And I saw that the Oakland airport will be adding San Francisco Bay to the name.
Can you believe they voted to do this anyway?
No.
They were threatened with a lawsuit by SFO and by the city attorney in San Francisco.
That's right.
Saying, don't use SFO or don't use San Francisco Bay in your name. And the commissioners at the Port of Oakland were like, we're doing it anyway. We don't care what you have to say.
Yeah, screw you.
Good day, sir.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Despite an uproar from politicians and tourism executives, officials who oversee Oakland International Airport, they report here, voted yesterday to add San Francisco Bay to the name. The change is meant to spur economic growth in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic and to create a higher profile for the least busy of the Bay Area's three major airports. There will be a legal war. They voted, the Board of Commissioners voted unanimously 7-0 to approve the name change.
That's so dumb. I mean, it's going to be so confusing.
Will it, or will it be like, doesn't matter?
For people that aren't from here, or even if you are from here, imagine if you asked me to pick you up from the airport. You said, yep, I'm flying into San Francisco. I would assume that means SFO.
Oh, yeah.
But perhaps it means San Francisco Bay.
Well,
so I show up at SFO and you're like, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm at San Francisco Bay. Then I got to go all the way across the bay to get you.
Well, let me suggest in that hypothetical conversation that you ask, is SFO or OAK?
But now they've set it up so that I have to clarify every single time.
Oh my God, Kim!
And what
really?
if people don't know to clarify? What about people who are like thinking they're flying into SFO?
That's a better argument.
And then they end up in Oakland. God forbid on Hagenberger wandering around looking to get out of there.
I hope they don't bring any valuable stuff on Hagenberger.
Jeez.
You're right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like Kim is not backing this.
I think it's the dumbest plan in the world. I can't even believe they did this.
Oh, wow. Wow.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Well, nobody's happy with it. Florida next. Smash the like button like a boss if you would. Give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the YouTube universes with the algorithms and all the stuff. And yes, smash it.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Kim's News. Teresa will join us also as a guest for Friday. Fabulous Florida. Albert, it's a good one today, isn't it? You curate it. It's good.
Yeah, and I just added a gator story, so you're welcome, everyone.
Oh, I love that. Got to love the Gators. All right. Good times. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Stocks are tumbling over renewed fears of inflation and Middle East conflicts. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropping 500 points at one point in afternoon trading yesterday as investors continued their sell-off. The latest inflation figures still show rising prices. There are reports, though, of an imminent attack on Israel by Iran. All of this combining to make it a rough day on the stock market. Authorities say the driver of a stolen 18-wheeler has intentionally crashed it into a Texas DPS office. DPS says officials say 16 people are being treated after the truck crashed into the office in their city of Brenham, located between Houston and Austin. 3 people are in critical condition. Several reports say the driver has been arrested and was angry that he was denied a commercial driver's license yesterday. History is being made with Donald Trump becoming the first former president to stand trial in a criminal case. The jury selection in Trump's so-called hush money case will begin Monday in New York City. Trump is accused of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to adult film star. We heard she doesn't like to be called that. She likes to be called a porn star. I mean, it is what it is. Stormy Daniels, ahead of the 2016 election. I was reading
been anything like this.
Someone trying to be funny yesterday on the internet saying Stormy Daniels may be the only person Trump hired who actually was good at doing the job for which she was hired. Yeah,
I see.
Right.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
The vice president is in Arizona today to speak on abortion. This comes after the state Supreme Court upheld a near total ban on abortions that was put into place 160 years ago. That's really applicable to today. Kamala Harris will be in Tucson for an event focusing on the Biden administration's effort to keep abortion legal. The U.S. Embassy in Israel warning Americans in the country of security threats. The embassy issued a security alert restricting travel for government employees and their families outside certain areas until further notice. This is in response to reports that Iran will be launching a retaliatory strike on Israel after an airstrike killed 2 high-ranking Iranian commanders in Syria. A new survey says no, not California, Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee, is the best suburb for Americans to spend their golden years. You want to retire in Tennessee? Old House Reviews ranked the top 10 suburbs across the country for retirees, coming in second, Winchester, Nevada, followed by Sun City, Arizona, Zionsville, Indiana, and Franklin, Tennessee. These are the places where apparently it's going to be good times. You know,
it is beautiful country there.
Slow down, get on the rocking chair on the porch.
There are positives and negatives, I could see. Yeah.
I mean, that's a little too slow.
Well, also, I don't know. They kind of I don't know. I always worry about the environment in some of these red states, which is just, they let businesses run roughshod over it, and you end up with water supplies contaminated. But maybe I have a cartoonish view of it. Maybe that's too extreme. But in any case, the politics might be challenging. But you're right. It's kind of if you're implying it's sort of a rural life, a slower life, that's certainly available. But it's also available in California.
The lemonade and the sarsaparilla taste good. Got a little breeze on the porch. Lawmakers are lowering California's budget deficit by $17 billion. They approved a series of spending cuts for things like vacant state jobs, school construction, and welfare. The deal also delays money for public transit and rail lines and preschool and kindergarten facilities grants. Governor Gavin Newsom has estimated the budget shortfall at about $38 billion, but will update that number when he unveils his revised plan next month. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, is ushering people back into the office. State workers here in California are being told, you got to come back into the office in June. Many began doing their jobs from home because of the pandemic. While some agencies and departments have already set up hybrid telework policies, others haven't. Governor Newsom is now directing everyone to show up at least 2 days a week, saying this will encourage greater collaboration and cohesion, and people are not happy at all. What do you mean you want us to come back 2 days a week? Yeah, well, that's the way of the world.
Yeah, cohesion's a ding word.
California taking action to support salmon fishing communities. Governor Newsom requesting another federal fishery disaster declaration. If it's approved, it'll provide needed relief to those affected by salmon fishing seasons staying closed for a second straight year.
This is brutal what's happening to the salmon population in California, and it's not just salmon. This is a real issue with fish and relocation and climate change and this idea somehow that you can just relocate them, and conservationists are trying also. It's not, it's really confusing and I think scientifically confounding as to why so many are dying.
And the governor says decades of climate extremes have severely impacted salmon populations, and this is expected to address the crisis for the long term.
Yeah, that's certainly true what he's saying. And it's true, Ms. Organic, you're right, overfishing matters. Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. As you mentioned, Mark, Oakland is one step closer to renaming its airport. The Port of Oakland's Board of Commissioners voting for this yesterday. The plan still needs final approval at a meeting on May 9th. San Francisco's city attorney already threatened to sue if it goes through and will give an update in a few days. He says the name San Francisco Bay Oakland International Airport will confuse travelers and could send some to the wrong destination. Oakland officials believe it'll help the city stand out and bring in more travelers.
Kim and I disagree. I think this is no big deal, but I understand the big dealers like Kim.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
All right.
It's the Oakland airport. Why you got to change it? Why you got to mess with something that works?
By the
really?
way, it's the best airport, or it's a great airport to fly into.
It's the
getting in
easier
and out
airport.
is so much easier. Yeah.
Fewer weather delays, right? Easy in and out, unless, you get accosted on Hagenberger. Other than that,
but yeah,
pretty good.
If you're planning a trip to the San Francisco Bay Area, I recommend that you check out that Oakland airport first. It is, for all those reasons we mentioned, much, much easier.
Mm-hmm. There's a lawsuit going on. Remember Drake? The musical artist Drake.
Of course, yeah, sure.
He's been dropped from this lawsuit over what happened in 2021 at the Astroworld Music Festival in Houston.
Let me guess, it's some sexual harassment?
No, actually, that's when 10 people were crushed in this crowd crush thing at Astroworld.
Wow.
Remember that during the stampede and the crowd? Yeah.
I thought
Drake,
it was Travis Scott who
right.
had that.
That's mostly what it was about. But Drake performed at the festival, headlined by rapper Travis Scott, and asked last month to be dismissed from this case, saying he had nothing to do with any of the planning. He didn't know about any of the safety concerns. And a judge actually granted that request on Wednesday. So now Drake is completely out of that lawsuit.
I kind of agree. I mean, these guys, Drake's there to perform. He doesn't set up security. And, it's really, unless you could show his fingerprints in some way on the planning, I don't see how that, how his name shouldn't be dropped. So that, I think, is a good decision.
Lucy the elephant, lastly, is in the running for the best roadside attraction in the United States. This iconic structure in Margate, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore, is competing against 18 other landmarks, including a towering Dalmatian fire hydrant in Texas. In a USA Today poll, the 142-year-old Jersey Shore icon stands 6 stories high and houses a museum. You can vote on USA Today up to May 6th, once a day, with the top 10 winners being announced on May 15th for the best roadside attraction in the United States.
I mean, Albert, we couldn't rally a picture of the roadside attraction. I mean, I'm just saying it's being voted one of the favorites.
Mm-hmm. This report sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee.
I blame you, Albert.
Albert, thank you.
I'm just saying.
I have a Coachella Valley tea. I'm very happy this morning. Yep. Find a huge selection of coffees and amazing teas. It really is a treat just for you. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Get your exclusive 10% discount just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. Put in Mark T at checkout and enjoy the good stuff. I'm Kim McAllister. Baby. That's right. And this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is The Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Who's Mark Thompson?
We are back after Kim's news. I see this. Kim's right. The airport rebrand is stupid. Ask the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles how well that goes. They suck, but thanks for Ohtani. All right. I disagree. I think it's just not that big a deal. But maybe you're right. There clearly is people feel strongly about it. So anyway, there's some hate for Oakland, number one in America for homeless road attractions. I mean, Oakland's got a lot of challenges. One of the challenges is that not enough people are using their airport. They feel it's because people don't realize that proximity of the Oakland airport is such that you'd be in a pretty good position if you're going to San Francisco to land there. And I've said it's a better place, actually, a better spot to plan your destination. Anyway, they think it's branding. So that's that. All right. I want to welcome in
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to welcome in somebody who I am so glad can join us for Friday Fabulous Florida. And as a bonus, I want to spend just a minute talking about this great book that she has done. How about it for Teresa Strasser, everybody? Yeah. Look at you. How are you, Teresa Strasser?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Do we hear her or not, Albert? Okay, good. Of course. We're excited to have you. And before I get to Florida, curated by Albert, I want to touch on your book. The introduction to your book is really powerful, and it really speaks to, because it's sort of about, I guess the book's about baseball, but it's really about how you can speak more eloquently than I about this, but what I'm getting is that it's about how that bonded and also brought together sort of on a cellular level your feelings and emotions around family, even a fractured family.
That was very well put. Is fractured one of those words where you play the sound effect or no?
Because it's you, I will ding it. I don't know. It's close. It will be on the outskirts of dingable. Yeah.
It's right on the edge of dingable. Yeah. So Making It Home is about one single season of baseball that I watched with my dad after my brother died of cancer. He was 47, and we were watching my oldest son play. My brother had also played Little League, and my dad and I, those people who get way too into youth sports, we were not those people because we were 100 times worse than any of those people. Like, we were texting back and forth the lineup, who we thought should play second or third, lots of smack talking of fourth graders, including my kid. And our obsession with our team and our love for our team, just, I can't explain it. It was our grief group. We just unfolded our Costco beach chairs right there behind the first base line, and we were swept up in the drama of this season. And that's what I write about, because baseball is unlike any other major sport. It doesn't have a clock. There's talk about the pitching clock, but there's no game clock. And because of that, a comeback is always possible in baseball. It's the most hopeful sport in the world.
That's you and your dad?
Yeah, that's me and my dad. And when you're grieving, you need hope. You need hope that things are going to get at least different, and then different gets better. And I had this incredible experience where when you write a book, you have to reach out to try to get what are called blurbs from people, right? Like, you can see in that graphic, the blurb that's on the cover of my book is from Cal Ripken Jr. So I used all my connections to get to Cal.
You got that? Oh.
Yes, I used my connections, which is to say, Mark, I Googled how to reach Cal Ripken Jr.
Impressive. Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That's the journalist in you coming out.
Google it.
Yeah. Coming
Yes,
out.
I Googled it, and miraculously he responded because, he's obviously from a baseball family. His kids play, his dad played. And his quote about my book is my favorite. He said, "It's a story about a team that becomes a family and a family that becomes a team." So
that's a great quote. Wow.
Baseball people love it, but it is a story about family. My dad and I didn't have a great relationship, and when the two of us were grieving, baseball brought us together.
Well, I'm glad we get it a mention, and it's available where books are sold. I'll tell you what, Albert, can we put a link in maybe to Teresa's book on this video and on videos that we appear on? So you'll get it on the live show and also on the segment that we break out. So good stuff. Well,
wait,
congratulations.
before we get into Florida, can I ask Albert if he has any of his tins handy? When we were discussing how difficult they make it to get into the thank you.
There it is.
Thank you. The Camino.
Sadly, I do have it ready at all times.
Now, is that CBD or THC or one of those things that you kids like to get high on?
Yeah, it helps me go to sleep, laugh on Instagram a little bit, and then call it a night.
No, that's cool.
My favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Okay. No one's smoking anymore. I shouldn't say no one. Also, there's this from Lori. No, fracture, definitely not a ding word. Come on, Mark. Oh, sorry.
That's on me.
Yeah,
I made you do it.
I did throw Teresa a bone. She's a guest and she's kind of friend of the show. So there's that. Trevor says, great title for Mark's autobiography, Right on the Edge of Dingable. Yes, very good. Teresa, will you sit down and write my autobiography for me? Because I feel like it's not easy, that discipline of writing,
it was difficult. I got to say, I had to schedule myself and just say, like, you just got to sit here for the next 2 hours. Even if you don't write a single word, you cannot get up. And that usually, that usually helps, because the pain and frustration of not writing eventually transcends like the frustration of writing.
Yeah. I think you need that. You need to build in some schedule and discipline that way. Great book of short stories by Gary Soto, Baseball in April. Not really about baseball, just the one story. Yeah, so Lori, maybe you'd like Teresa's book as well. As they say, I only read the introduction, but it's really good. Really good.
Thank you.
So you know how it works. This is a segment that is curated by Albert, where we all play along, and they never disappoint. The state that is full of sunshine and crazy. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
And in addition to Kim and Albert, we welcome Teresa Strasser, friend of the show. And let's get right into it. Feel free to chime in anytime, anyone, as you are struck by these stories. And God does show up in our first story. Sadly, a woman feeling that God speaking to her during or in response to the eclipse was telling her to go out and, again, this is one of these things, I can't believe God would have told her this, start shooting at drivers on Interstate 10. And that's what she did before being arrested and charged with attempted murder. The Florida Highway Patrol collected up Taylon Nichelle Celestine, 22. She entered the highway from the Alabama border in the Florida Panhandle, headed west. And there she is on the Mark Thompson booking photo meter. I'm going to give her a 5. I think that is a...
Is she wearing a flak jacket? What is that?
It does look like she is wearing one of those things that they ask you to put on before you go in for an x-ray. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. Listen, I got to chime in here because obviously you've got to be careful with advice God gives you.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
She was told, hey, it's the eclipse, so you should go out and shoot people. That was a directive from God. God told me to bet on Iowa, and that didn't go my way.
What?
Oh,
yeah.
My God.
God said Caitlin Clark is the second coming, and I acted accordingly.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Well, it didn't go
the Lord
well for her.
said she eclipses all the other players.
Oh, I see. Well, there's another eclipse reference. Yeah.
By the way, obviously her behavior was deranged and violent, but I got to give her credit because it is difficult to hit a moving target wearing those eclipse glasses.
That is true. That is true. And I know because this is the United States of guns. Everyone, Mark, what was she using? Well, what was she firing, buddy? Can you tell me what she was firing? Well, yes, I can. An AR-15 and a 9mm handgun. She was carrying. She was loaded up, and she was arrested. By the way, she did hit somebody, and they were hit in the neck.
That's what I'm saying. I think she hit 2 people.
Right. That's exactly right. And those people are treated at the hospital. Fortunately, no one dying from that incident, but easily could have turned that way. A 35-year-old drunk Florida man believed that he had the right to sit naked in a trash can, everyone. Yeah?
That is a right. It's a God-given right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was taken into custody, but he told the cops that he believed he was allowed to be sitting naked in a trash can on the public sidewalk. So, I mean...
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol
Well, I've told you that he's drunk. So,
it looks like a sad sack.
Mark Thompson show booking photo meter, I'm going to give him a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
That's even high.
Yeah, a little generous. I agree. 2.5, 3. Anyway, Wiley James Weeks, as you see him there, found sitting in the trash can, drunk, according to the Pinellas County cops. He refused to identify himself on the grounds that he was being illegally detained. He was charged with misdemeanor counts of disorderly intoxication, resisting an officer without violence. Police indicated that there also might be other issues, although they did not think that those issues involved drugs or mental health. So this is a guy who just got wasted, hammered, ended up in a trash can.
Just had a rough night.
Yeah.
I think the lesson to be learned here is that in Florida, it's not enough to be one kind of trashed.
Yeah, you got to be able to, play it from the other side. Albert, are we dropping the ritual sword? We have to drop it, right, buddy? That's
yeah.
It
was a little too dark, but there was a sword involved, and it sounded cool. But the story was
It's really violent and awful. So I'm passing on it. Believe me, Albert and I had a meeting. I said, I wonder if we could do it this way, that way.
About the sword?
Yeah,
it was too dark.
It was too dark. I mean, it involved. Well, I don't even want to bum everybody up, but okay. So
we'll stick to your rapier-like wit.
Yeah, what's that? Let's get what?
We'll stick with your rapier-like wit.
Thank you very much. Rapier would be a ding word.
Thank you.
A Florida man is accused of threatening an 11-year-old with a knife. Why? Because the 11-year-old was riding his bike on the sidewalk. A young boy with a frightening experience while riding his bike in Winter Springs, Florida. A 73-year-old man.
He looks scary.
Threatened him with a knife. Imagine him with a knife in his hand. On the Mark Thompson Show booking scale meter, I'm giving him actually a 6. Yeah. He looks right at the camera. He looks resolute. And
he looks the part. He looks like he's like a TV show villain almost.
Thank you. We would cast him. He'd certainly get a call back.
That caused me to pedal faster. Yep.
Yeah, the 11-year-old boy's mother said that the man pointed the knife right at her son's chest because, quote, he was upset that the boy was riding his bike on the sidewalk.
At least it wasn't a sword.
Yeah, next time a sword. He was heading toward our home, which is down here, the boy's mother said. He told me when he got home that he thought he was going to die. He was talking about, this is what the little kid said. The 5th grader was riding his bike on the sidewalk, and Richard Schaefer, that you see here, 73, he was also on the sidewalk, and he confronted him. Schaefer took out his knife, confronting the 11-year-old, because, quote, he was riding his bike on the sidewalk and not on the bike lane on the street.
I guess he's a rule follower.
Man.
Well, if that's how frustrated he get with the kid riding on the sidewalk, imagine if the kid used that little bike horn.
Oh, that could have freaked old. That could have freaked him out.
That is probably, yes, that's definitely going to trigger a boomer there.
Yeah, Richard could have really lost it if he'd experienced some kind of air horn or something like that. Would have been real trouble. But when they found Richard Schaefer, they found him in possession of a knife and a gun, which he was permitted to carry. And he does have a Mr. Clean look. Somebody was saying that in the... Yeah. It is legal, you may be asking yourself, because we always like to play the legality of the moment. He should move somewhere where there are no sidewalks, says Grady King. But cops say in Winter Springs that it is legal to ride a bike on the sidewalk. So Schaefer doesn't have any legal standing to do this. And Schaefer is facing a charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and scaring the crap out of an 11-year-old kid.
Exactly.
A Florida man accused of using children to roam the streets to collect money for a fake nonprofit. Wow.
There's never been anything like this. Wild idea, but it just might work.
This does have a Trump University feel to it, I have to say. Gilbert Jean, 36 years old, arrested after he used kids to help collect money for a nonprofit that doesn't exist. There he is. And again, on the Mark Thompson Show, booking photo meter. I'm thinking 7 even. I think he...
I need to understand your scale. Like, what makes something a 10?
No, this is a good question. We've never really defined the parameters.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's a mysterious scale.
I mean, you know,
it's how does the photo move you?
How have you watched America's Got Talent or American Idol? I mean,
sure.
It doesn't appear that there are any real solid criteria by which they make these decisions.
No, and to Kim's point, she's saying it's an ineffable. Like, how do you know it's porn when the Supreme Court just said, right? Like, you know it when you see it.
Right. Exactly. So,
No.
Yeah, well,
The image is hideous.
The image is hideous.
I think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
Okay, well, I'm going to give him a 7 just because I think, I don't know, he strikes me as a 7. But you're right, we
Listen,
don't, yeah.
As a mother of 2 young kids, obviously what he did isn't right. He had like 4 or 5 different kids that he was farming out to collect money for this fake charity. And he was also selling weed and had a scale and various paraphernalia.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Well, yeah.
In his van. But
Right.
to his credit, he did diversify. Because that weed business is not going to always,
Right. You mean the
provide
fake
dividends.
nonprofit business is
Right.
not so, yeah.
Doesn't anybody but a weed?
Yeah, so you've got to kind of broaden, your pitch.
You learn that day one at Trump U.
That's true. That would be one of the go-to moves. It's interesting too, just on this point, that you don't want the nonprofit pitch kids to be pitching weed. Also, you know what I mean? It undercuts the nonprofit. It's
I
two
agree.
different, completely different pitches. He's 36-year-old Longwood man, arrested. He used these kids, as Teresa says, to help collect money for this nonprofit that doesn't exist, and he was stopped with a traffic stop, and
Busted.
he's got the van, and in the van is all that fun stuff that's associated with paraphernalia, strong marijuana smell, and he also.
But did he have a Camino tin, Albert?
Yeah, no edibles on board. I don't think, Albert. They only talk about the smokable stuff.
What was the nonprofit?
The nonprofit, he's, by the way, he had a kid in the car with him in the back of the van, which is always a little bit suspect. They say that...
There are a few things more suspicious than having a kid who's not yours in your van.
Okay, you're right. I used the wrong word.
Where you also have drug paraphernalia, scales, and other items.
I'm going to give that a 10. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
That is true. It's all... Where's that clear as... Remember we used to do that, Albert? What was that? Where's the clear as crystal drop? That was one of my favorite drops. It's all there.
Well, it's black and white.
All there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. Well, in any case, the child told troopers that he was aware of the drugs were inside the vehicle. He also said that I guess the kid is part of this scheme to, pitch nonprofits. The children kept $4 for every $10 they collected.
Which isn't bad.
It's not like he, he was a grifter with a heart, is what I'm getting so far.
He wasn't a usurious grifter.
Right, usurious. Wow, you can tell she's a writer.
You're on the Ding speed train right now.
She is on the speed train to Ding City.
I'm so thirsty now for dings.
Yeah. A Florida man leads New York cops on a chase and then drives off a cliff into Long Island Sound to get away from those cops in that chase.
What?
Roger Foster, 56. He's from the Villages in Florida, everybody.
Nice.
He was arrested and charged later that day. 2nd-degree criminal contempt, 3rd-degree criminal mischief, numerous traffic violations, unlawful fleeing.
Did Mark just drop?
I think Mark frozen. I wasn't sure if it was me or him. I don't know.
He had allegedly.
Yeah.
What's that, Albert?
You dropped for like 10 seconds.
I
but you're
dropped
back.
out. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't.
But you're in the middle. Roger Foster's from the Villages, and then you.
Oh yeah, Roger Foster from the Villages, arrested and charged with 2nd-degree criminal contempt, 3rd-degree criminal mischief, numerous traffic violations, unlawful fleeing, 2 outstanding arrest warrants. Maybe that's why he was fleeing. And he had slashed a tire on his ex-wife's car. That in the morning.
He's an angry fella.
Yeah.
Well, also, what's upsetting to me is that if someone's driving erratically in Long Island, I expect it to be Billy Joel.
That is true. It's a Billy Joel world on Long Island. And
They stole
apparently
his move.
he was parked at his place of work and then fled the building. Or maybe the word came out that, his wife may have called the cops, I guess. Apparently I see. I'm sorry. He slashed her tire. It was at her place of work, and he gave chase. And then he headed back from where he had started out, and that's when authorities were called. And they had multiple patrol cars and officers involved, and at some point they, chased him so vigorously and aggressively that he had no choice but to drive through the guardrail and end up off the cliff and bouncing into the beach into Long Island Sound. So
It's really keeping up the image of the Villages, though, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
never been anything like
Kim's
this.
right.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah.
you can take the boy out of the Villages, but you can't take the Villages out of the boy.
I mean, that is in those chase sequences when somebody just gives it all up and decides, all right, I'm just driving off this cliff,
It's Thelma and Louise, but make it Florida.
Thank you.
Tawanda,
Thank you
that's
very
right.
much. A Florida man is permanently banned from his own home.
What?
I'll be curious to know
How
what
does
the
that
crowd
happen?
thinks of this. Yeah, so he's ordered by a judge not to return to his home. He violated that order, and now he's headed back to jail. Cody Driggers, which is the most Florida name you can come up with, is going to spend the next 180 days in jail for violating the judge's order to stay away after years of drug activity that happened in his home. You see him there. Tough to believe by looking at him that he was involved in years of drug activity, but it's true. I'm going to say on the Mark Thompson Show booking photo meter. Now, what do you think here? I give him a 3.
I'd go a little higher than that.
You kind of are attracted to him, aren't you?
I mean, the
Low
facial
key?
tattoos, what can I say?
No, but low key, he's not a bad looking guy.
Yeah.
I have to say, all right, I'm going to give him a 5 now. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I like to look at. He has the "I love me," I heart me, I think, on the cheek, and he has like
Oh,
a 4, like
yeah.
literally the word 4x4 on his neck. So-
Self-love.
I heart me. That's
It's
it.
about self-care and
Yeah.
self-love. You have to love
right.
yourself enough to get it tattooed on your face.
That's right. He's clearly an evolved person who's just become involved. He's evolved but involved in something he shouldn't be in. And anyway, there was this, I guess it sounds like it was a drug house, illegal drug activity, overdoses, other criminal behavior all happened at this house. There was an injunction prohibiting the 5 defendants who were arrested initially from directly or indirectly entering, gathering, maintaining, residing, or otherwise being on the property. He violated that court order. He was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 90 days in jail. And since then, he was found on the property again. Now his latest sentence is 180 days in jail. The judge's order also prohibits John Driggers, who is incarcerated at a state prison, from leasing, renting, or otherwise permitting individuals to reside and or gather on that property. All residents, including the homeowner, including his dad, were banned from the home in 2023. And the judge is saying it every way he can. Please, get it through your head. No more you and the house. It's done, okay?
Good day, sir.
Right. How many ways do we have to communicate this, Cody Driggers? Yeah. Tattoos, fine. House, no fine.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
the
true.
facial tattoos make it extra challenging when you're going door to door for your fake charity.
Yeah.
It
Albert
just limits your opportunity.
has favored us with a gator story.
Thank
And,
you.
Oh.
Thank you. It's getting to be that season, isn't it, Albert, as things warm up down there? And here it is. A giant gator breaks into a Florida woman's home and wanders into the kitchen, everybody.
Right now it's mating season, and they're hungry.
Yeah. The homeowner says the front door had a magnetic closure on it, so the gator just pushed right through, made itself at home. Yeah. 8 feet. Mary Hollenbach says that she's watching TV in her Venice home when her front door began rattling. We're showing you pictures both of Mary and of the gator. She was expecting to see an intruder, but instead she saw this 8-foot gator. You can see it being carried off there. My mindset was like, quote, oh my goodness, I have an alligator in my house. And at the same time, I'm thinking, I have an alligator in my house. How am I going to get rid of the guy? Now, she's pretty chill about the whole thing.
Well, I mean,
man, imagine if it was cycling on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You live in Florida. I mean, you know the gators are there, right?
Would have really gone after that. Yeah. Very good. It sounds like she was a cool-headed homeowner who was visited by a gator, and that will conclude our stories. Now, what we do, Teresa, is we pick a favorite. There's no right answers here, but let me just review the stories that we heard so that we can just decide. What are the stories that you put in the chat for the vote, Albert?
I have God told her to shoot, fake nonprofit, giant gator break-in, and banned from own home. Those are
okay. So you can vote for those now in the chat. And you can also please vote after hours. We do check after hours. It lets us know the stories that are your favorites, and we try to find more stories like that. Florida woman, again, shooting at interstate driver. She said God told her to do it because of the eclipse. The drunk Florida man believing that he had a right to sit naked in a trash can in public. The Florida man accused of threatening an 11-year-old with a knife for riding his bike on the sidewalk. He took the get off my lawn old guy narrative to another level. Florida man accused of using children to roam the streets to collect money for a fake nonprofit. You don't want to give to the nonprofit. Maybe you're interested in some weed. We've also got that in the van. Giant gator breaking into a Florida woman's home wanders into the kitchen. The Florida man leading the New York cops on chase drives off a cliff into Long Island Sound. He was from the Villages in Florida. And a man permanently banned from his Florida home, arrested for, of course, going to the home from which he was banned. And with that collection of excellence, we need a favorite. I'll turn first to the great Kim McAllister. Go ahead, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
I have a hard time not picking the guy from the Villages just because, but I have to go for there is a gator in my kitchen. Absolutely.
Yeah, gator in my kitchen is strong.
I can't even imagine, hearing a rattling at the door, walking out and seeing that in my entryway. No.
Our guest, Teresa Strasser.
Look, one of your audience posted that they wanted to vote for the sword story that we didn't get to hear. I don't know what activity involving a sword could be more unpleasant than going to medieval times. So for that reason, but my vote, I think I got to go with Naked Trash Man because of his commitment to recycling.
Oh, nice. Very strong. I also like his commitment to insistence. Insisting, hey, this is my right. I'm a Florida resident, and if I want to, be here in the trash can drunk, I can be. Albert, what do you like?
Albert, thank you.
I like the people in the chat also partaking in your booking scale photos. Anytime you start the scale, everybody starts chiming in and giving their own numbers.
Oh, that's good. Are you putting it up there? If you could add them, because I don't see them at the time.
Yeah, next time. There was just so many, but then a lot of people are chiming in, and I'm looking forward to that going forward. I do like the man using the nonprofit guy. It's just supporting the gig economy. The kids are making some money. He's also making some money. I don't see how he's hurting anyone other than maybe the scams and probably using kids for something that isn't real. But he's just helping everybody make some money here.
That is just too good.
We all agree they're getting a fair cut at 40%.
That's a great cut.
Yep.
That was, I mean, if they're really getting that money, that's a really decent way
Imagine
to go.
Uber drivers getting that.
Yeah, exactly. They'll never see
Florida.
40%.
The Florida lemonade stand now is doing fake nonprofits.
Yeah.
And,
gotta keep the kids happy.
It's also, there's something like a Charles Dickens story, using kids to roam the streets to get money, and then it's a very, it's a throwback to a simpler time when people were.
Tiny Tim. You throw Tiny Tim in the van with his crutches, and then you put him on the corner.
Right, you got 2024. There you go. That's exactly it. It was a simpler, predatory time back then. There are no right answers, as I say, but the right answer is. The gator. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just on the part. So
and a gator in the kitchen is a classic. Like that's one of our first Florida drops, and it's in our opener and our closer. So
exactly, which is why it checks
it's two
too many
on
boxes.
the whatever you call a gator's nose.
Yeah,
what is
snout? Maybe the gator snout.
It's two on the snout.
That is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Well, this was so much fun. Teresa, so great to have you sit in with us. Thank you. We love any excuse to get you into the mix. Albert, can you please put up the cover of her book again? Is that possible?
Thank you so much. And by the way, the first time and the only other time I was on your show, I got so many nice messages from your viewers. And one of them even said, I hunted down your book. So thank you so much. By the way, your team here is amazing. I love Kim and I love Albert. They're so talented and they make your show so much fun.
I agree. I think I'm so lucky to be surrounded by these guys. So very, very cool. And I like that you like them. Making It Home is the book. Teresa Strasser will have a link to it under this video, and also when we break out our little conversation with Teresa in a separate video. Stay in touch, Teresa, and let's drop in again. Will Teresa be one of the guest hosts while Mark is away? I haven't talked to her about that. Maybe you and Kim would consider doing the show together. I
would love that. I would love it. If Teresa's free, I would love to have her hang out.
Oh, that's super cool. Maybe, Teresa, you take a meeting on that?
Yes, I would love to. That would be great. Thank you for thinking of me.
I think it would be great. I may have to be away for a little while, so that would be really fun if you guys could do it.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
There you go. It's a wild idea. A lot of love for Teresa. Making It Home. We'll look forward to getting into that, and look forward to your next visit. Thanks, Teresa Strasser.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Wow. Good times.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I am thinking of a couple of things, Albert. The first thing I'm thinking about is that I have Michael Shure, and the second thing I'm thinking about is that I have Kim's news, and the third thing I'm thinking about is that there probably isn't time for both right now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think we're running into maybe 1:15 territory.
Yeah, we'll probably get off the air about 15
if we did do
minutes.
news, yeah.
Yeah.
So
let's rock and roll.
Calvin with a $20 super chat and a little love for Teresa. How about
big shout out?
Big shout out.
Yeah.
$20 Teresa sub host. Yeah, absolutely. When I'm away, I think it would be great to have Teresa and Kim rock the show. So that was something we'll absolutely do. Thank you for that. So I will. I'll step back then and let Kim. Maybe we can do some news bottom of the hour after Michael Shure. I want to mention one thing. Michael Shure had a commitment, so we recorded this right before we went on. So like the half hour of the show right before we started the show, more or less, Michael and I had this conversation. I mention that because I think we talk about the FISA legislation, for example, and it has now passed, okay? So I think it passed while we were talking, actually, and Kim tried to let us know, but we were just in the middle of conversation. So just in the interest of full disclosure, this isn't a live conversation. We had it, 90 minutes ago or something like that. But it's a really good conversation with a guy who's just so terrific. So please smash the like button.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Michael Shure on politics, and then we get back to the Culture Blaster and more. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
I
would you handle this?
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Oh, I'm loving Fridays. We get a chance to chat with a guy who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. Of course, I'm talking about Michael Shure. What's up with you, sir? How are you? Yeah,
I'm well.
Very excited to speak with you.
I went to a Jimmy Buffett tribute concert last night, and
that was quite the show. I had a couple of pictures sent to me.
Oh my God!
Concert.
It was the best memorial service I've ever been to, and it was great. I mean, yeah, people came out who you wouldn't have expected. Snoop Dogg sang "Gin and Juice." Paul McCartney sang "Let It Be," all on the same bill. Yeah, John McEnroe was there, like talking about stuff that he had done. Woody Harrelson, Harrison Ford. It was, and then all this great music too. I mean,
wow.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Well, there are three of them right
there. They were all there. They were all there.
What? Throw me some other names. I saw somebody sent me a shot of Joe Walsh playing.
Jackson Brown, Joe Walsh, the Eagles, J.D. Souther, Sheryl Crow.
Wow.
Pitbull. Yes.
Yeah.
Pitbull. Yeah, I'm forgetting people.
That's terrific. That's really cool.
It was really great. Yeah, it was fantastic. And then at the end, they all sang together what they do with these things. So
all right, I have to ask because that's the kind of show I do. Super expensive ticket, or what? How did it come to you?
I bought them yesterday afternoon. They've been super expensive. It was the fastest show ever to sell out the Hollywood Bowl. I have a friend who works at the box office, an old friend who works at the box office there, who said that he couldn't do anything. Even parking was sold out, and he can usually do anything. And then sort of middle of the day yesterday, I bought tickets, and it was they were not super expensive. They weren't great either, by the way. But I was there, and the Hollywood Bowl,
and that's one of those things of those music shows, and you just go, if you're in the arena, you're hearing the music. I mean, I don't know that you need to actually be. If you're not in the first 10 rows, it probably doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know.
Correct. I totally. And you say that when you have bad seats.
Of course. I was gonna. We all want to sit closer.
Right.
Well, that's really cool. I am struck today by something that is happening, which is that the party of the GOP is completely, I would say, taken over by Donald Trump. And again, this is not breaking news, except when you see the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, go to Mar-a-Lago, and you see the former President Trump having explicitly made clear that he wants no progress on Ukraine money, that he wants no progress on border money. You see a guy who may not even end up in the Oval Office manipulating serious questions that involve America on the global stage. And I'm talking about Ukraine and the southern border as well, and it goes on beyond that, purely for political reasons. I find it deeply disturbing.
Well, I mean, it is. It's interesting. In our lifetime, we haven't had the former president who is running for office again. And I think that when you have been a president and you know that you have a captive audience and everyone in your party knows that audience is so captive, it changes the dynamic and the hold that you have over the party in office. If Donald Trump were a new candidate right now, and even if he were the nominee still, or the presumptive nominee, he wouldn't have this kind of a hold over the Congress, but he does because he already has a brand and he's already been president. So I think that there is, we don't remember what it was like when Grover Cleveland was running for re-election against Benjamin Harrison, but even what I'm saying is that it's an unusual circumstance that you have somebody who's a known quantity who has run the country before and run the party and is the standard bearer of the party. He has a hold over these people, and Mike Johnson knows that he needs that support. He needs that support to save his job, and he needs that support as well to sort of galvanize Republicans around an issue that they see as, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in this segment, as there's an issue that's overtaken this election, which is abortion. And Johnson wants to turn it to election fraud and the border. And he needs Donald Trump in order to do that.
No, I'm so glad you touch on this, because it's remarkable to me that what has happened in Arizona reminds everyone of what had happened with this Trump-installed Supreme Court, an activist court that is stacked toward this plan to overturn Roe. They did. And now in states like Arizona, abortion is being outlawed. And that reminds everyone of the stacked court. Not that they necessarily needed the reminder, but as you've suggested or implied, it's crowded out all the other things that the GOP would like to focus on. They'd like to, it doesn't matter what they say now, inflation, border, they can make as big a deal out of Ukraine, et cetera, that they want. But the only thing I think that is taking space in people's heads is abortion right now.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. The Dodd decision overturning Roe and what's happening in Arizona, what has continued to happen in other states, has been the best political news for the Democrats. It's something that is loathsome in terms of policy, in terms of law, to so many Democrats, and really, frankly, to most Americans. However, it is helping the party politically to get power back, or to stay in power in the places where they have it. And so it's a very odd terrain for a party to, they have a punching bag now, right? They have these what they term backwards decisions, and the Republicans have no idea what to do about it just yet. So what they're trying to do is talk about things that have been sexy to their base, which is election fraud, which is, of course, the border, and it's just not penetrating in the way that abortion is penetrating. And I think that is, in fact, going to be decisive. I mean, if the election were held today, which is the dumbest thing in politics, because it's not, it would
no,
certainly.
Right. It's always said, is your point. Everybody always says if the election were held today, right? Yeah.
Exactly. If the 49ers, if the Super Bowl had ended at halftime, the 49ers would have won the Super Bowl. But the point is that you have a very, very strange dynamic going on, which is that Democrats see this horrible legislation in their ideas. It's hampering the Republicans, and it is a political gift for them, because what is it doing? It's taking so many women out of the game for Republicans, and those are the voters that they needed to win back in the swing states where they needed to score victories, where they lost in 2020. So this is a very, very unusual election. I think you're going to see the impact of this. And Mike Johnson going to Donald Trump today. He's going to be at Mar-a-Lago today. It's to show unity of the party, and that they have their eyes on other things, and you'll hear about those.
So this is interesting. So let me follow up on the Mike Johnson thing, then I'm going to double back on the election. The Mike Johnson thing, do you think there's any chance that Johnson could have extracted some kind of concession from Trump? I mean, and this is a truly, speculative type thing, but in other words, is it always just, tell me what page of the hymnal I'm supposed to sing from, sir, Mr. Trump?
Yeah, it's hard. This is obviously a guessing game. My guess is that a victory for Mike Johnson would be to get Donald Trump to stay out of the inner workings of the leadership of the House, and the motion to vacate, which is a motion to take his speakership away, which has been floated by Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. And so I think that there is in fact some currency to be gained by getting on the same page with Trump, but also saying, please just stay out of that part of this, right? Stay out of trying to either call for my ouster or not. And it looks like there's going to be a vote today where they're going to do a FISA bill, which is the surveillance bill, which is something that the leadership has been fighting for. And there was originally a 5-year plan. Johnson scaled it down to 2 because a lot of the conservatives were called by Donald Trump to say, vote against this. We don't want a 5-year FISA renewal because when I'm president, I want to completely overhaul FISA. So now they have a 2-year renewal. It's going to be voted on and most likely be successful. It's bipartisan. The president will sign it. The reason is because Trump wanted to be able to come in as president and totally overhaul FISA.
Well, I mean, and whether or not he'll get that done, I mean, he doesn't exactly, even during his presidency, have some sort of distinguished legislative record. But I now go back to the election, and this FISA thing is a big deal. I mean, there's been a back and forth, and the question of warrants essentially that need to be produced to cull information and data from Americans. It's a significant bill.
But again, it's a significant bill. It's important. The voter who goes into the election booth in November and says, I'm voting for X because of FISA, you can probably count 20 of them, right? And most
Absolutely.
of them
No, of course, you're right. I think if you could stop 1,000 people on the street and they wouldn't even know what you're talking about.
No, of course not. They wouldn't. I mean, it's the FBI voter who's going to be the voter.
Right. Now I want to double back to the election. So you've got this radioactive issue that is huge. You have these ridiculous, antiquated views of what laws should be over women's reproductive rights. And the thing I've been chirping about since the very beginning here is put abortion on the ballot, put it on as many ballots in as many states as you can. I'm talking about a ballot measure to codify a woman's reproductive rights. And that will ensure two things: the turnout, and very few people are showing up to codify that those rights without pulling the lever for Joe Biden, or at least not pulling it for Trump.
Right.
How will it handicap? Here's where I look at Arizona and I go, are they going to modify this? You'd think they'd have to, and yet the legislature, they seem in no hurry to modify it. They seem the opposite of guys in a hurry.
Yeah, well, I mean, they seem like it. I think a lot of it has to do with the legal part of it, and you can't hurry law. But I do think, which is a great Supreme song covered by Phil Collins later. That was an accident. I actually stumbled into "You Can't Hurry Law," but that's why what these legislators are doing. They can't change this as quickly as they want to, many of them. And I think that's a big problem. And that's something you're seeing in Arizona. Then you go to Florida, not a swing state, it's a red state, but you just spent a little bit of time on the show talking about Florida. What they are doing there is they are going through and talking about ballot measures on abortion, and that would change everything, the entire dynamic of the election, the national election, because of Florida then becomes in play because of this, because there's a restriction on when an abortion is it 6 weeks, is it longer, when does viability kick in. These conversations are not conversations that the Republicans want to see America having ahead of an election. They do not want people to come out to vote on election day because there's a ballot measure on abortion, because they know it's a losing battle for them.
Yeah, so well said. That's exactly right. And they're going to have that conversation now. And to whatever degree you can modify these draconian laws and antiquated laws and ridiculous medieval laws, I would almost call them, that are inflicted upon women, you may or may not be able to do that in time. And it seems it's truly a radioactive situation for the GOP. So now I want
to... And I should point out, Mark, I just interrupt. The Democrats have feared that immigration is going to be a radioactive issue for them. So this is a double victory in a way, because what it does is it doesn't just help them get people out to vote in these states with ballot initiatives and on an issue that is overwhelmingly favored by most Americans, which is choice. But it also diffuses what is a real detriment to them going into an election, which is having to answer for immigration and having to fight images, whether they are true or not, having to fight what is now in the public sphere as something that is accepted, that there are too many immigrants coming in, that there's not enough border patrol, that Biden has open borders. Whether you believe any of that or not, that is what's being sold and people are buying it. But that is diffused by abortion, that's why it's a double victory for Democrats.
It's such a great point. It's funny, I was talking to someone this morning about third party stuff. There it is, how Biden's campaign plans to pummel Trump on abortion. And, you know, you don't need to pummel much. It's just self-pummeling that's going on.
And by the way, sorry, I keep interrupting, but Trump is having to pummel himself a little on abortion too, by moderating within his own party. That is, you know, very, very difficult. Those are difficult waters to navigate. To his benefit is the fact that even if conservatives are irate over his moderation on abortion, they're still going to vote for him over Biden. But it does hurt him in having to defend himself. A nominee on the defensive is never a good place to be.
Yeah, well, and one night taking credit, you know, I'm the one who gave you the Supreme Court and gave you what you wanted, and the next night saying, you know, I don't agree with everything that's being, and he doesn't have he has tremendous, he has a nose for the marketing of policy and, you know, for serving up the BS, essentially. You know, I've got a big plan, and I've got a plan on infrastructure, I've got a plan on healthcare, I've got a plan, whatever it might be. So when it comes to just, you know, floating BS, he's got it. But on this one, there are so many specifics, and we've seen them play out. The BS just doesn't, it stinks too much for him to really sell it. So it really puts him in a tough spot. And speaking of tough spots, he's going to be in court. Now, I guess on one level you could say, yeah, it's baked in. You know, he's a guy with legal problems, witch hunt, you know, Biden's Justice Department, et cetera. And you can do that arithmetic. But what we're going to learn in court, and what will also be in the news cycle, Michael, to the degree that people are aware of it, is the way in which the Trump organization doled out money to women to keep them quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not helping him predictably will not help him with women voters. And, you know, I agree with you. It's baked in. And it's been proven that what Donald Trump does doesn't matter that much to the people that support him most. But he hasn't been convicted in this way. And if he is convicted, it stretches things out. We're going to be talking about it more. He's going to be mired in this legal stuff. And I think what it does is it adds to the fatigue. And I have to think fatigue always hurts. You know, there was Clinton fatigue. There's been Reagan. There was Reagan fatigue. People get tired of the same thing. And if you're just exhausted by reading about Donald Trump in court, even though it's baked in, I think it does have an effect on voters. Not maybe enough to change an election, but it's another difficult, place for Republicans to be.
That's a really interesting take that honestly I hadn't thought of in relation to the trial. Like at some point you just want, because what I think is his barking, Trump's constant vituperative rhetoric, you do tire of that. And I think it begins to not work anymore. You know, the angry guy screaming on the courthouse steps.
Right.
So when you think about the trial and you think about that, you know, just his style, you begin to grow weary of it. And I think what is interesting about the point you're making is it has an effect on your enthusiasm about this guy over time.
Right. I think that's the biggest part. And it's hardest to predict, but there's certainly a part of human nature where that happens. And I predict it will happen to some degree because of just the continuation. It's why Donald Trump wants all this stuff delayed. It's not on legal grounds. It's, I don't care what they say and what they do when I'm president. It's getting to be president again that I care about. And
no, he has to get to that finish line. That's absolutely right.
Anything that stymies that would be a problem.
So if you look at the races nationwide, it does look like the House will be retaken by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Less clear. The Senate really is a more challenging situation for the Democrats.
Yeah,
and
no question. Made more challenging by Larry Hogan, a popular Republican governor of Maryland, entering that Senate race, which could really change everything in the Senate. The House does look that way. I mean, look, the House is barely Republican right now. And part of what the conservative Republicans are so upset about is that Mike Johnson has had to make deals with Democrats to get anything done, including funding the government, just because his majority is hardly a majority. And Republicans are getting off the train pretty quickly and retiring, and not just saying I'm not going to run again, but actually just leaving Congress. So it does point in that direction. The House is going to go back to the Democrats, and Hakeem Jeffries would be Speaker, which would be a big challenge to Donald Trump, of course, and a safety net for Democrats. But they do want more. And the Senate, though, is going to be a bit trickier for Democrats. There's going to be something that surprises us in one of the Senate races, unquestionably. But nonetheless, the Democrats are, I think, up against it in the Senate, at least to keep a 51-49, maybe a 50-50s in reach.
In our last minute or two, I want to ask you about the House. Maybe you can help us. This is really where your political acumen is so needed. How does a party like the GOP get held hostage by someone who is as shallow, vacuous, and utterly crazy as Marjorie Taylor Greene? How does one House member and a thin coalition of people hold an entire party like this hostage? Or am I characterizing it incorrectly?
No, you aren't. I mean, it's something that they put in. And so a motion to vacate the chair, which means to say that the Speaker's chair is vacant, it takes one member of their party to do that. And so it's something they created, and it's something that has hurt their party in terms of how they're viewed. There are lots of protections for members of Congress in terms of voting, in terms of the rights, the filibuster law, So one person can stand in the way. Tommy Tuberville did it earlier this year for quite a long time, the senator from Alabama, on military appointments. And so I think that when you look at it, it's probably a good thing, but it also means that once in a while you're going to get a Marjorie Taylor Greene to come along and say, I don't care what Trump and Johnson do in Florida. I'm glad that they're together on issues or whatever. My point is that Mike Johnson is too tight with the Democrats and he shouldn't be there. And that's all it takes right now. And so it's a funny place. It's a funny thing to hear, but it's really true. So all it takes is one member of Congress to file a resolution to remove him, and then it goes up on a vote. And
do you recall a situation that was akin to this?
Kevin McCarthy is what it was.
Prior to that. Prior to this particular bag of crazies getting in there, was
Yeah, they had. So Speaker, I think it was Joe Cannon in the 1910, something like that, had a motion to vacate against him. Boehner, they tried to do it, John Boehner, in probably 2014, 2015. So there is precedent for it. It hasn't succeeded really until you saw it with John Boehner. And then with Kevin McCarthy. And so now, like impeachment, it becomes diluted. It's just somebody standing on ceremony and doing something like this. Remember, impeachment was such a sacred thing when it happened to Andrew Johnson, then didn't happen again until Bill Clinton over 130 years later. And so that mere fact that that's how rare it was, and now it happens every Thursday that somebody's talking about impeaching the president, Trump, Biden, whatever, and so it becomes diluted. I think probably that's what's going to happen with this at some point. It's going to be a joke, but you got to get the jokers out of there in order to change the tide of this stuff.
Michael, great stuff. Did we leave anything out? Reflections on O.J. Simpson, I thought what the Simpson thing pointed out, just as we look back, was sort of aspects of the culture of the legal system. It brought a window into the legal system but it wasn't, in a way, it wasn't a real window on anything but rich celebrity
Right.
But race, to be honest. I mean, the race perhaps was the better window.
It was about race, and there were a lot of people at the time who justified it. Said, "Look, I think he murdered him, but black people have gotten such a raw deal in courts in America over time. Give them a victory." And even as unfair as it is, there was a lot of sort of equivocation in that regard. But going to what you just said, the people that sort of stood in the way of that were just, no, it's not because he's black. It's because he was rich and he was able to afford these lawyers, F. Bailey and Robert Shapiro and Bob Kardashian, who was kind of his personal lawyer. So I don't know. I think you were spot on. It's more of a window into a cultural time. And look, we all know where we were when we watched that chase and what it meant. And it was the first celebrity trial we remember. It was court TV all over the place, and to that end, it was a phenomenon. But he was a bad guy. He went back to jail for 9 years in Nevada. He was, he was found liable civilly. He was acquitted. So you have to say he was acquitted of murder. But by the same token, he ended up not being a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, and he was a violent guy who
was a violent. Yeah, I mean,
beat up a lot of people, beat up a lot of women.
I don't mean to say that in a muted way. He was, he had this persona on the outside where he played Nordberg in the Naked Gun movies, and he was the happy guy running through airports and whatever for Hertz Rent-A-Car. But he was a bad guy.
Yeah, it is wild. The contrast was so bizarre. The way he was so beloved, he had that wonderful manner and easy manner on television, and as an athlete deified, then as a celebrity deified in his own way, and the cops, who of course were made out to be these conspiracy-ridden people trying to railroad Simpson, they had been covering for him for all of these years that he had been doing all of these awful things.
Totally. Yep. That's exactly.
It was a weird
right.
place. All right, Michael Shure, I'm told that you want some. You're troubled that you don't have any swag at all.
I'm glad it finally got to you. My complaints. You're right. You never think the correct people are getting these emails, but I need stuff.
I think you deserve some swag. If we can find out where your secret bunker is, and if it can receive a package, you will get one. I promise, within the next 30 days.
Well, it's on tape now, so we'll see.
Indeed.
Okay.
Find Michael across the Twitterverse, across the webverse, across the World Wide Web. Love seeing you always, sir. Thank you. Michael Shure, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, Michael.
Bye.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels good.
Morning.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Loving it. Glad you could be with us on a Friday. We are a crowd-funded show. I remind you, we kind of are on a PBS NPR model. So it's sort of like, if you like this show and you'd like to see it continue, please show your support. So many of you have, though. It's really gratifying and encouraging, and we spend every dollar of it to get. I've got a bunch of new expenses, actually, that are associated with hardware that we're getting going. So it's really, but you guys really allow us to stay where we are, which I appreciate. Jessica McNeil with a $9.99 super sticker. Come on, Michael. How about a little respect for the big shout out for Jessica? Yeah, Snyder has just slipped in. Yeah, he does, to the studio. But I will next week, probably Monday, acknowledge a few of the new Patreon and PayPal members, or those who have increased their support, which is really cool also. So we'll do that probably on Monday. We have a little more time. Before I bring on Snyder and the Culture Blaster, does anybody have any business to bring up? I ask you first, Albert, please.
I think we're good. We had that super sticker, and I think that
Albert,
was it.
Thank you.
All right. Albert, going to be golfing this weekend? Is that what you're doing?
Probably not. I'm working. I'm working this weekend.
Oh, okay. Kim? your plans? Probably going to a child's recital or
we
something?
have karate, and then we have a
Karate.
symphony performance in Santa Rosa that we'll do with.
Oh, that should be great.
Yeah, it should be really fun. Just a couple of headlines before we get to Mr. Snyder.
Please.
First is that President Biden is saying that he expects that Iran will attack Israel sooner rather than later. So if that's a signal to anyone, that's what we have. And I thought
that's
the story...
in response, of course, to the Israeli...
sure. Yeah.
In Syria, the attacking the Iranian embassy, knocking out those Hamas members. Go ahead. Yeah.
The second story, and I was reading about this last night, there's a couple of states that are warning the Biden administration they're going to miss the ballot deadline, and he might not be on the ballot there. Usually states make assurances or exceptions for this type of thing, but now Ohio and Alabama say their deadlines come after the DNC convention and the whole official nominating process, right? And so they're indicating that provisional nominations won't be accepted and that President Biden might not be on the ballot in Ohio and Alabama. Something has to be done about this.
Let me talk to and bring on the show Monday Richard Green, the civics dean, who has all the numbers. He's a numbers guy, and will... At minimum, I'll have spoken to him, and as I say, ideally, I'll bring him on the show on Monday, and we can ask him directly about that. I do want to thank also Robert H. Big shout out.
Robert H.
$20 super sticker. Come on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Robert, very cool. 88 today in the Central Valley. Tomorrow, rain. Yeah, I forgot. It's going to rain. Even if you didn't have to work, Albert, it's going to be a rain day tomorrow. Edward Lee.
It is the Masters this weekend, though. So for the golf fans, it's the biggest.
Oh, the
major.
Masters, of course. Yeah. You want to
to
stay in and watch other guys play.
Says,
Maud points out you had hope for Alabama. No, but Ohio maybe.
Yes,
yeah.
Ohio, right.
But good point. That when Kim first said he's not going to be in the ballot, I thought, well, it's probably in red states anyway. It's not going to matter. But then she mentioned Ohio.
Ohio's a big one. Yeah. What's the state where if you don't win, usually in that state, you don't win the presidency? Is it Ohio?
Well, that used to be the case. I mean,
Florida? I don't know.
Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, these are all critical swing states.
Yeah.
But Georgia's become swingy. Now Arizona, but there used to be an adage, I think with regard to like a New England state with New Hampshire is like, as goes New Hampshire, so goes the nation. They were sort of the bellwether for whether or not you would win. But then it quickly became apparent that actually, if you won New Hampshire, I think a candidate won New Hampshire and Vermont and nothing else. And then they changed it to, as goes New Hampshire, so goes Vermont. So they didn't really. It underscores the fact that there really isn't a one bellwether state. But we'll bring in the civics dean on Monday, and we can talk more about that. So, with that said, and with Oakland changing its name, it's a very exciting day here. And the more Kim doesn't like the name change, of course, the more I like it. Yeah.
That's expected, right?
Yes, exactly. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Bellwether is a ding word, says Tom. I guess it would be, kind of. I don't want to delay any further. I want to delay further, but I can't delay any further. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Let's hear it for the Culture Blaster, Michael Snyder.
Greetings and salutations, MT Show people. Hi, Kim. Hi, Albert. Everybody that's involved. Teresa joined.
We had quite the crew today. Yeah,
really, really great. And I know you've been having some throat issues, but you should tell the people because of those issues, you landed the lead role in the animated feature Froggy Went to Courtin'.
I do have some problems with the throat.
I'm not saying there's a croak involved.
I missed a couple of big voiceover jobs because of the I can't get any projection from the voice.
Well, speaking of croaking, yesterday to commemorate the death of O.J. Simpson, I slashed the tires on a white Ford Bronco. I felt so good about it too. I know it's a
and those were in short supply with that crime.
I agree. That was not the way things went.
No, shout out to Ron Cook, by the way. Big shout out. I like to give, we're crowd funded, Michael. So I'm giving a big shout out to Ron.
Big shout out.
$20 super sticker.
You
Thank
have
you.
a massive crowd that's ever growing, like I said last week.
They're really
30,000 plus subscribers.
Yeah, I think, it's great. Eligible sitting presidents not on the ballot. The political science is ridiculous. Yes, Murphy. Yes. The science
is ridiculous.
Murphy Rowan with the 5 spots. So thank you for that super chat, Michael. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, this is okay. Your fundraising is.
Well, when people jump in, I like to celebrate them, Michael.
It's as egregious as PBS.
Right.
I want to just tell you right now, but rather than keep people on tenterhooks, shall we talk about the popular culture of the weekend?
Well, I want to ask Kim have something? Did you have something,
Yeah,
Kim?
I'm hoping you can turn Michael Snyder up a little bit. I think he's low.
Is this better? Michael, can you speak, please?
I shall speak.
Is that any better or not?
Trippingly across
Maybe
the tongue.
a little higher.
Higher still. This is we're messing up with the levels today, man.
I can't even imagine the tech involved.
Thank you.
I think I have him cranked up all the time. I don't understand.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
I don't understand why I can't get a. It's just. I mean, and where are those pictures I was supposed to see?
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
Let's continue.
Citizen Swain, $20 for the Culture Blasters Popcorn Fund. Big shout out to Citizen Swain for the 20. Thank you.
You could have given it to me directly, Heather. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's a friend of Michael's.
Well, I'm glad there's somebody out there that considers themselves a friend of mine, because I think friends are in short supply.
Citizen Swain,
Girl, you
nice
just
job.
woo.
Yeah, all right.
So let's go with the films. Let's talk a little bit about movies, because there is a very provocative film that leads the pack this weekend. The new movie from Bravura filmmaker Alex Garland.
Bravura,
He of the brilliant and disturbing thriller about the dangers of AI, Ex Machina.
One of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The less successful and even more arcane science fiction actioner Annihilation, the one with Natalie Portman, and the daring and utterly bizarre psychological mind melter Men is pretty daring and topical on the face of it, this new movie. It's called Civil War. That's right, Civil War. And it's not an historical epic about the Union and the Confederacy and Abe Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. There is no sign of Ken Burns in this Civil War. This Civil War, also, though, set on the continent of North America, like that one from the 1860s, might be ripped from tomorrow's headlines. It's about a near-future armed conflict for control of the U.S., as in the blue versus the red, rather than the blue versus the gray. Although screenwriter and director Garland never really specifies the political philosophies or the trigger for this war that has erupted between a Washington, D.C. entrenched government with a seemingly feckless president as its figurehead.
Feckless. And
an unlikely rebel coalition comprised of Texas and California. I mean, that's unlikely. And they seek to bring down the status quo. But Garland's Civil War is also about those caught in the middle of the fighting, as represented by 4 journalists on a road trip from a terrorist-plagued New York City to the front lines of the rebels as they advance on D.C. from Charlottesville, Virginia. The dystopia is seen through the eyes of the journalists, led by longtime war photographer Lee, played by Kirsten Dunst, and her reporter colleague Joel, played by Wagner Moura. And they're accompanied by older veteran journalist Sammy, and that would be played by Stephen Henderson, who is, as he suggests, on his last assignment, and an increasingly reckless novice photographer Jesse, played by Kelly Spaney of Priscilla, who is eager to emulate Lee. And by the way, I know that on the surface, the movie is an apolitical look at the atrocity of war. I mean, consider the ideological disconnect of the combined Texas-California Western forces.
Well, that's really clever, by the way. That way you really just don't know which blue and what's red. It's not, you're not picking sides in the first few minutes of the movie because of that coalition.
That's how canny, I would suggest,
really
Garland is here.
Super clever.
Also, it suggests that for all of the social and technological advances in American society, here's a truth. We are so divided for so many reasons: ignorance, bigotry, greed, the lightning-fast dissemination of digital disinformation, and so on, that something once thought implausible, a full-on U.S. Civil War in the 21st century, is not out of the realm of possibility. That makes this thing scary.
Sure.
But if you pay any close attention here, you might notice that the president, who was under siege in D.C., is on his third consecutive term of office, and he's played by Nick Offerman, initially known for his role as an anti-government libertarian city official on the TV sitcom Parks and Recreation. An actor known for playing an anti-government official was cast as a tyrannical president who has ignored term limits. I sense a subtext here. I could be wrong. Anyway, the whole enterprise is smart, exciting, and tragically brutal as war itself, even if the vague elements of the circumstances and the backstory are potential landmines. On a gut level, if you see this in an IMAX theater, it will, speaking of landmines, blow you away. Dunst, Spaney, Mora, and Henderson make for ideal travel companions on this journey into an American heart of darkness. And yes, the Joseph Conrad reference was intended. One more quick note, an appearance by Oscar, Emmy, and BAFTA nominee Jesse Plemons, Dunst's husband in real life, packs a real wallop in Civil War.
Wow.
It's in theaters.
Wow. Sounds pretty intense.
It is. And again, you may have issues as I did with, what exactly made this happen? But that's really not the point of the movie.
Yeah, that sounds like it's about the brutality of a country coming unglued.
Yeah, that's fair. And the fact that it can happen here.
Right, exactly.
Imagine, if you will, now.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry to do this, but I mean,
I'm sure you are.
Michael stirs up ding words like a short order chef. Arcane is pointed out, Tom. I lose track of them. Canny and emulate, all of them. So nicely done. Go ahead.
Towards a more flourishing vocabulary. Imagine, if you will, Mark, a National Geographic special about one of the most mysterious creatures thought to roam the wilds. That's the vibe of Sasquatch Sunset from the Antic fraternal directing team of David and Nathan Zellner. A mix of faux nature documentary, comedy, family drama, and survival tale. Written by David Zellner, Sasquatch Sunset follows a quartet of Sasquatches, those big hairy creatures, a veritable Bigfoot clan over the course of 1 year as they live their lives in the largely unspoiled forests and glens of what appears to be Northern California or Oregon. And if I'm not mistaken, it was shot around Mendocino. I could be wrong. So furry and free of the niceties of civilization, an older alpha male, a younger male, the female of the group that the males both covet, and an even younger Sasquatch live off the land, even as humankind lurks at the periphery of their world. So Nathan Zellner, who is a character actor of note, plays the alpha, whose curiosity and lack of restraint can be problematic. And Christoph Zajac-Denik is a gifted physical actor whose portrayal of the littlest Bigfoot is downright poignant. But the real surprise here is the casting and performance of the other male and of the female, who are played in fearless fashion by Jesse Eisenberg, that's right, Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, Lex Luthor in those DC superhero movies, and Riley Keough of the great indie on-the-road dramedy Zola and the rock and roll faux documentary Daisy Jones and the Six. They are unrecognizable in full Sasquatch regalia, and regardless of how scatological some of the Sasquatch behavior is, and it is hilariously so in some cases, they fully commit to it. And I mean, I'm thinking, this is Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, portraying a Sasquatch and definitely delivering the goods.
That's wild.
Totally wild. Okay, so Sasquatch Sunset is no Harry and the Hendersons, which was kind of a middling film comedy. That's the only other significant Bigfoot movie I can think of off the top of my head. But this Sunset is fresh, idiosyncratic, and thoroughly entertaining as it plays out in beautiful natural settings, through changing seasons, and through changes in the shaggy, lumbering quartet. I thought it was so cool. Sasquatch Sunset is in theaters right now.
Wow. Yeah, so it's not a comedy.
It's comedic. It's funny. It gets a little slapstick. Again, have you ever watched monkeys at a zoo behave between one another? There's some element of that. These are primates, but a little less evolved from us, or are they? Anyway,
will I cry at the end, Michael?
You might not. I don't know. I know that you're an animal lover, but
I am, and I sense that humans ruin their life at the end. Am I right about that, Michael? I know nothing about this movie, but I'm telling you, it's my experience on this earth that human beings are going to ruin this handful of sweet Sasquatches.
I just want to say no spoilers, Mark. No spoilers, at least not for this movie.
All right, go ahead.
Moving along, even as it dances around its circumstances and situation, kind of like the way Civil War does, the post-apocalyptic horror movie Arcadian, oh my God, it's kind of another creepy future. This has a visceral power to it, as well as the visceral power of top-billed cast member Nicolas Cage. Our man Nick plays survival-minded rural denizen Paul, a father
visceral and denizen
dedicated to keeping his two sons, Thomas, a dreamer and one of those lovers, not fighters, and Joseph, who's kind of a builder scientist type, safe from a threat that comes by night. So it's the future. There's something hinky that went on, and civilization has been imperiled. In any case, monsters lurk. And when Thomas decides to visit the cute girl at the neighboring farm and fails to come home before nightfall, Daddy Paul must head out and risk it all to find the kid and try to fend off the legions of beasties. So, directed by Benjamin Brewer from Mike Nealon's spare script, Arcadian is more family drama in the wilderness. Wow, there's a reference to Sasquatch Sunset. But there are no Sasquatches here, but there are like horrible creatures. Let's just say yikes about that. And it's a trashed near future, but its war is an uncivil one between humanity and truly fearsome, fast-moving, fanged and clawed demons that brought to mind the shape-shifting antagonist of John Carpenter's The Thing. Remember how scary that thing was?
Oh my God, it's one of the scariest movies
Imagine
I've ever seen.
Packs of them.
Wow.
Okay. I had questions. Are the monstrosities some kind of zombies, mutations, or something else? Is the setting America, or is it Ireland? Because those farmhouses look mighty Irish, and okay, that's where the movie was shot. And what's the true provenance of Paul's sons? Ultimately, you know what? I didn't care about the answers or the fact that the characters make some senseless decisions in the face of the threat targeting them, with Cage in courageous taciturn mode. In other words, no real chewing of the scenery. Fine young actors Jaden Martell and Maxwell Jenkins as Thomas and Joseph, the sons, and those super creepy, almost elastic creatures. Arcadian is a solid B movie that should satisfy those who want to consume a little nightmare fuel.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
It's in theaters.
In theaters. What else do you have?
Well, I have something that is also in the horror realm. We have some dark stuff that we're covering.
You like your horror, though.
Well, I play the hand I'm dealt, Mark.
I see. Okay. All right. Very good.
So Sting, not the rock star, Sting is the second Australian horror movie in the past few weeks that's set in America with American characters and only one American actor. Remember, we discussed Late Night with the Devil, which is one of those sorts of films made in Australia.
No, you liked that. I remember it was a little funky and weird and fun.
It's really good, and it's a better feature film than Sting, and that was the first of these two American-set, Aussie-made movies. So it hews to a very familiar formula. Sting, which is written and directed by Kia Roche-Turner, is a decent creature feature about a spider of unknown origin that ends up in a rundown Brooklyn apartment building and is adopted as a pet by a disaffected 12-year-old girl named Charlotte. A reference probably to Charlotte's Web, I guess, and not Charlottesville as in Civil War. Again, weird. This is like a Venn diagram. Oh my God. Anyway, this spider has a rather ravenous appetite and seems to grow far more rapidly than your garden variety arachnid. It endangers all the folks in the building, whether they're nice or mean or clueless, and any unfortunates who might stop by the tenement. So Charlotte is played by Elila Brown, and she has issues with her mother, played by Penelope Mitchell, and her stepfather, played by Ryan Corr. And he is a struggling comic book artist who works in the building as a handyman to make ends meet. Thus, when things go hinky, he's the guy that has to investigate.
Oh, man.
Okay. So despite her issues, Charlotte doesn't necessarily want to be an orphan, and she surely has no axe to grind with the exterminator who's called in to investigate what appears to be a rat infestation. By the way, he's played for comic relief by that sole American in the cast, Jermaine Fowler. Still, the spider, which Charlotte calls Sting, has an agenda of its own. And the message here, be careful of exotic pets, people. I mean, if you're scared of spiders, by the way, you may want to sit this one out. There was a classic National Lampoon magazine cover with someone holding a pistol to the head of a cute dog under the headline, "Buy this magazine or we'll shoot this dog." Now, if that made you uneasy, you might not want to watch thing. You should probably pass on this. I mean, seriously, as soon as a crying baby, a cute little chihuahua, and a kitty cat show up in Sting, anyone watching this has to be thinking, spider chow. Anyway, it's another B movie and one with decent special effects from the gang at Weta in New Zealand. Sting isn't bad. It's silly, bargain matinee or Saturday night streaming fun. It is in theaters.
No. Kim, you had something?
I just want to say that this picture is going to keep me up at night. So
it is kind of kind of chilling. You see the spider there in the background on the ceiling.
Right. I can't even sleep when there's a normal sized spider on my ceiling. If it's even on my ceiling, like I can't go to sleep until it's dealt with.
But that's her pet, you're saying.
Right. It's her pet.
That's her pet.
And Kim, are you afraid of Spider-Man? I'm just asking.
Not the man.
But
no.
the spider.
The man part, isn't she?
The man's okay. The spider, no.
Oh,
no.
God. Okay, so all the ingredients for a rip-roaring time are in place with Damaged. Samuel L. Jackson stars in this serial killer mystery wherein Chicago police detective Dan Lawson is called in to consult on a series of murders in Scotland that seem to be copycat killings inspired by a similar slaughter spree that went down in Chicago 5 years earlier. So Jackson, of course, plays Lawson, a fish out of water in Edinburgh. The character actor John Hannah, who was kind of a villainous snake in The Mummy, plays a prime suspect who was a member of a kind of freaky religious order. And no less than French leading man Vincent Cassel, recently seen in HBO's Westworld, plays Lawson's ex-partner on the Chicago police force who shows up. So the star power is in effect. But the script lets them all down.
A guy from France was his partner on the Chicago police force?
He emigrated.
I get it, but it just seems like a...
Well,
All right. You buy the premise, you buy the bit. Okay, go ahead.
I think star power is the issue here, and star power is in effect. But the script lets them all down with kind of a plodding pace to its reveals and gratuitous twists and turns that just obfuscate things. Go ahead.
Obfuscate.
Go ahead. Damaged was co-written by Johnny Capaldi, who plays the Scottish cop in the case and is decent in the role. Well, I wish all these actors were in a more interesting movie. And by the way, the director of Damaged, Terry McDonough, is a veteran of prestige TV and has done great work on shows that include The Expanse, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad. Damaged shouldn't damage anyone's reputation, okay? But these talented people have all done work that's superior to this. And, I can't help but think that Jackson took the part in this Scottish production to facilitate one of his golfing excursions to the UK.
Yeah, it does feel like a money grab a little bit. Yeah.
It's in select theaters and available for streaming on demand at the usual platforms starting today.
All right, so wrap it up. What do you have?
One more.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was seduced by the subtleties while flat out impressed by the originality of La Chimera. It's an idiosyncratic dramedy about modern-day grave robbers who dig up and sell antiquities unearthed from unmarked tombs along a coastal area of contemporary Italy. It's directed and co-written by Alice Rohrwacher. La Chimera follows the excavating endeavors of the Tombaroli. This is a band of Italian scavengers as they plunder ancient graves that are somehow located with a divining rod by the nomadic fellow Arthur, who is an Englishman played by Josh O'Connor, the British actor, best known in the U.S. as author Lawrence Durrell in the TV series The Durrells. So Arthur is He's driven by a quest to somehow reconnect with his lost love by seeking out the relics of the past. But the sale of these archaeological finds is patently illegal, and the pursuit of them borders on desecration. And by the way, the chimera was a fire-breathing female monster of Greek mythology, part lion, part goat, part dragon, which it sounds like something Godzilla and King Kong would fight, but no. In the case of this occasionally beautiful and spooky movie, it's more of a powerful, unattainable entity that symbolizes Arthur's search for Benjamina and Benjamina's infirm mother, by the way, in a cool casting note, is played by none other than the great Isabella Rossellini. I thought La Chimera was really cool. It's a cool film. It's in select theaters, and that's what we have in.
Wow, that's very impressive. La Chimera, or however you say it.
La Chimera.
La Chimera, a dramedy about modern-day grave robbers in Italy. There it is. It does have a kind of. Somebody was commenting that 60s kind of feel to the poster. Is that the time period in which it takes?
No, it's sort of timeless. I think there might be cell phones. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Maybe that's just an Italian thing. Damaged. He said it's okay. It's okay.
It's disappointing.
It's okay in a disappointing way.
Okay.
Damaged. Samuel L. Jackson and Vincent Cassel.
Vincent Cassel.
The French actor who, of course, is his partner from Chicago. Star power, no script power, basically was what I got from your...
Yeah, muddy script.
Sting, the original horror movie involving Australian actors, except for one American. It's set in America, though.
And they all play Americans.
And
And you never doubt it.
It is...
Even the spider speaks with an American accent.
I got kind of, I don't know, C plus B minus from you on that one.
It's a B minus for lovers of monster movies.
Arcadian, the Nicolas Cage film that's in theaters now. Again, I got sort of fair to middling on that.
It's better. It's actually qualitatively better than Sting, but again, it's a B movie.
Okay. Sasquatch Sunset, perhaps the most intriguing of the offerings today in terms of, I don't know, maybe premise. 4 Sasquatches walk into a bar. No, but it's 4 Sasquatches followed over a year's time. And 2 of the Sasquatches are award-winning actors. Jesse Eisenberg, of course, played Mark Zuckerberg in Social Network.
Yep.
Also Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And Riley Keough from Zola and Daisy Jones and the Six.
Among other things. She was also in The Girlfriend.
Anyway, they both do great jobs. And Michael kind of liked this.
Oh, I that and La Chimera and
those are your picks for the week?
Relatively speaking, except for The Big Banger, which I think is definitely
which is coming up next. Sasquatch Sunset is in theaters, and I'm intrigued. But most intriguing, perhaps potentially most disturbing, and at the same time, perhaps most relevant. Civil War, a near-future battle for control of this country. Jesse Plemons makes a cameo, but there are a lot of very gifted actors in this offering, from what I was getting from you, Michael.
Yeah, a high point in Kirsten Dunst's career, I think. She's fantastic in this.
And they are, Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst, a couple in real life.
Yeah, but he's really a minor figure in the movie. Nonetheless, his scene
is powerful.
Very.
Civil War is in theaters, and it's significant. And one of the things they do so effectively, Michael was saying, is they don't establish red-blue. It's not about that. You've got an alliance between California and Texas, so that should tell you all you need to know about the fact that they kept it deliberately confusing.
Yeah, that militia wants to bring down the sitting government. So
there it is. Michael, what a fine job you've done running down different movies that exist in different genres. I'm always astounded at your abilities. I'm wondering if you want to weigh in on our, I'll do this. First, I'll say goodbye to you, and then I'm going to, because we've got to break this out as a separate video. Where can we read your stuff, sir?
I am, starting on Monday, visible with articles every week in Voice of San Francisco, which is a new daily online publication at voiceofsf.com. And I'm happy and proud to be involved with the organization. A lot of us are refugees from the Marina Times, and we have found new times here. With
Voice of San Francisco. Check him out soon. You can find him here on Fridays. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
Fare thee well, and go Giants, go Warriors.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
An after-hours question, Michael, if I could ask a quick follow-up.
Sure.
Where are you on the renaming of the Oakland airport? It's been an internal controversy here on the show. Kim and I disagree on it.
I believe that it should be Oakland International, and I feel like they do people a disservice and could confuse people.
So you are on Kim's side.
Kim, how are you?
Right.
I love you, Mark, but yes. And on other fronts, let me just say my favorite airport in the Southland, because as you well know, I travel between the two cities.
Yes, you do.
Los Angeles and San Francisco. I never want to go through LAX. I always want to go through Burbank.
Right, and Burbank and Oakland are like the same kind of airport.
Absolutely.
Small, manageable airports.
Yeah,
Maybe they should have changed the name to Small Manageable Airport.
SMA would be their
SMA,
code.
exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right on that.
What was that, Albert?
It's one of those, you just walk past security and you're at your gate already. At Burbank
Exactly.
and Oakland,
And
yeah.
that's what you want.
Easy in, easy out. No problem.
What was that old show, Wings, where it was kind of that kind of airport?
Yeah, you feel like you're.
You get to walk on the tarmac too, like at Burbank. So you feel like a movie star walking.
Oh,
yeah.
When I come down the staircase, I expect to be met by the paparazzi.
Yeah. Anyway, congratulations on the new job and new publication, Michael, says Lori.
I thank you,
Very
Lori.
nice.
And again, we love you all, you 30,000 plus, and the regulars. Make this even more special gig.
Russ says Eastern San Francisco Airport should be the new name.
No. I like it.
All right. Albert, if you don't have anything more for me, we have to push away, which I hate to do, but what we must. Vivian El Shawa, how about a big shout out, Viv?
Big shout out.
Thank you for the super sticker for $10. We're crowdfunded, so appreciate anybody who jumps on our Patreon or PayPal or hits us with super stickers and super chats. Someone asked me, how do I do it after the show's off the air? We'll run through some of it. It's really simple. There's a little heart with a $sign, and you just click that, and now you can leave something that way. But however you want to do it, and however you support the show, we so appreciate it. Maybe you share the show. Maybe you put us on your Facebook feed, or there's so many ways to make a difference and help increase our footprint. So any way you help us, we do appreciate it. Anything else I need to do? Albert, Kim? No?
That's about it.
Oh, okay. Well, my gosh. Have
a great weekend.
It's a sad realization always for me.
Yeah.
When I realize we are at the end of a week. We've done a lot. It is going to rain this weekend. So I hope that there are no incidents related to the rain. And Albert, thank you for your hard work this week. Are you with us next week, Albert? I never know you're changing schedules, sir.
I will be the normal schedule unless Tony needs me to fill in, but I plan on being here Wednesday through Friday.
All right, very, very good. And Kim starts the after party now. Yep. She waits until the show is done, and then she goes over to the after party live. Yeah, it's kind of a good thing she does. So thanks as well. I'll get the Civics Dean, Richard Green, the Civics Dean, on Monday. So we'll talk about not being on the ballot. We'll talk about the coming election, third-party candidacy, and more, all on Monday.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Good week, good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Till Monday. Bye-bye.